Metropolitan Code of Laws. Please take notice that decisions of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County Community Oversight Board may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under a common law writ of cert. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of a final decision by the board. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedural requirements are met. Thank you. I next want to, and I know went a bit out of order here, but I'll do a roll call vote. I see just about everyone here, but let's start with Mr. Campbell Gooch. I believe he is, yep, Mr. Campbell Gooch.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mr. Goddard.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mr. Holloway.
I'm here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Hildred.
Present.
Thank you, Dr. Hildred. Mr. Hughes.
I am here.
Thank you. Dr. Lewis. I believe we're missing no, I see Dr. Lewis. Dr. Lewis. We're on mute for us, though. Dr. Lewis, if you you may have stepped away, we'll come back here. Mr. Martinez.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Ms. Ross.
Present.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Mr. Sweeney.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Witzel. He's not joined us quite yet, I don't believe. Mr. Witzel. Okay. Dr. Lewis, can you hear us now? Okay, so by my count here, I believe we seem to have, and I myself am here, Ashley Davis, we have 10 of 11 present. However, actually responding right now, 9 out of 11, because we need to just check back with Dr. Lewis here. And so we'll just, I'll continue to just try to make sure we make contact here. When she signed on, did we hear anything at all? Or was she just present, just asking, we might have technical problems? If not, Mr. Pinkley and or Director Fitchard, would you mind just shooting her an email and just asking her to unmute to say she's here? I'd just like to make sure we have that connection. Thank you very much. Mr. Pinkley, while we're saying your name, if you don't mind, could you connect with us here on the electronic meeting statement?
Absolutely. So as we've done with all of our past electronic meetings, I'll do a quick run through of how we're able to do this. Back in March, Governor Lee passed Executive Order 16, which granted the board the ability to meet electronically as a result of the coronavirus. That order expired in May, but was extended by Executive Order 34. That order grants all the same rights that were under Executive Order 16, which allows us to suspend the in-person quorum requirements for a board meeting. That order is set to expire on June 30th. The governor has come out and said that he does not plan to extend past June 30th, so this will likely be our last electronic meeting. But to move forward today, we'll just need a motion that says essentially the board needs to meet to conduct essential business and is meeting electronically to protect the safety and welfare of the public.
Thank you, Mr. Pinkley. Is there a motion?
So moved. This is Andres.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Anyone second?
Seconded, Phyllis.
Thank you, Dr. Hildred. Any focused discussion? If not, all those in favor, I'll go in order again. Mr. Campbell Gooch.
Aye.
Mr. Goddard.
Aye.
Mr. Holloway.
Aye.
Dr. Hildred.
Aye.
Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis, you have yet? Dr. Lewis, I see you're unmuted now for us. Yeah, we'll still keep going there. Mr. Martinez.
Aye.
Ms. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney.
Aye.
Mr. Witzel.
I am here.
Oh, hey, Mr. Witzel, how are you? Good afternoon. Thank you. And I vote aye as well. That is a I believe a unanimous vote with 10 members voting. Thank you very much, everyone. Dr. Lewis, do we have you yet? Do we have you connected here? Okay. I'm going to ask if everyone else please go back to mute if you don't mind, please. Can just eliminate some of the feedback in the background. And then we will then move here to the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion?
I move.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Anyone second? Is that Mr. Holloway?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway. Any focused discussion here? Or hands raised? No one? Okay. If not, all those in favor, Mr. Campbell Gooch?
Aye.
Mr. Goddard?
Aye.
Dr. Hildreth?
Aye.
Mr. Holloway?
Aye.
Mr. Hughes?
Aye.
Thank you. Dr. Lewis? Not quite yet. Okay. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Witzel?
Aye.
Thank you. And I vote aye as well. Thank you, everyone. And that takes care of the beginning of our housekeeping here. Next on our agenda is the chair remarks. And I've opted this time to substitute chair remarks to instead open the floor here. If there are any members of the board that just like to make a brief statement here as we begin our work here. Usually this is the space where I would offer updates, but all the updates that I would offer to you will be touched on are parts of this agenda. So there's no reason for me to go kind of in the weeds here. I will update the board on any and all matters involving the chair here as we begin to talk about things. So we'll do just that. Is there any member of the board here? Feel free to raise your hand if there's anything you just would like to share in the space. And quite a bit has taken place in just the course of a month and the last time we were all together. And so a member of the board suggested, and I agreed that this would be a good space for that. So with that, please feel free to raise your hand. If so, Mr. Hughes.
Yes, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for allowing me a point of personal privilege today. Just wanted to make sure that those who might be listening in the community are aware that the upcoming elections will be happening on August the 6th. Early vote starts on July the 17th, and the last day to request an absentee ballot is July the 7th. So I just wanted to make sure that that is on everyone's radar. If they are concerned about the prospect of being exposed to COVID-19 during this election cycle, they can in fact request an absentee ballot. That absentee ballot must be requested on or before July the 7th in order for participation in the August 6th election. Once again, July 17th is the start of early vote. So I definitely encourage everyone to get out and avail themselves of the opportunity to vote in this upcoming local election. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. It was great points and information. I believe we have quite a following on the social media page. Perhaps it's a good space to just share if I'm sure Metro is promoting that important information too, or for us to retweet or share that out too. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure many members of the public heard that as well. Mr. Campbell Gooch. Mr. Campbell Gooch, you're still on mute there. There you go.
Apologies. First, I wanted to say, I'm getting a ton of messages that there's an issue with the live stream. So I don't know who we need to go to there.
Thank you. What are the issues, Mr. Campbell? Are they unable to hear at all?
Yeah, from the website though. So it's people that are trying to access it through the website, the Nashville.gov streaming.
Okay, great. Mr. Pinkley, do we still have a contact on the tech side that can help us with that?
We should. If you'll give me 1 second, I'll reach out to them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
The MNN team is online too, so they can catch that as well. Sorry. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Fitchard. MNN team, that's quite a mouthful to say fast, but it's important and indispensable. If you all could be helpful there, that would be fantastic as well. Let us know if we can be helpful too. Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
Yeah, so first I want to start by acknowledging like the indigenous people who were forcibly removed from our land. So if people could just like, and also the people who were murdered by police and the death that our country is mourning over right now. So people could just like remove the silence. Thank you. First, I would like to mention that. First, I would like to frame the history that we are all witnessing right now. People are rising up across our country in defense of Black lives and demanding radical change to how our nation, how our country, how our city views public safety and pursues justice. Since before the founding of our state, police were used to maintain social order and property. The first organized patrols in the Carolinas was used to return enslaved Africans to their owners and defer any other enslaved African from rising up. History tells us that at its core, policing was, is, and will continue to be about protecting the interests of the elites. One of the many tasks of our board is to rectify the harm policing in our city has inflicted on Black, brown, and indigenous people. Allow me to be clear. This cannot happen without trying and committing to a radical change. Stay with me now. What would it look like if we replaced every police chief with a board like this, with community members from all walks of life, with all different skills, and grounded together in the pursuit for real public safety at a community level? What would it look like if we expanded public safety to include a livable wage, affordable housing, community mediation, and fully funded schools? What if this board was used to oversee the community's safety and success in each of these areas? So today I'm calling you in to use your imagination and our collective community resilience to start envisioning a cop-free world. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Thank you also for suggestion to offer this space and time as well. As Chair, I do not have any additional remarks to share at this time. We'll move forward with the agenda. And like all things, if there are any questions, I know many of you were on the executive committee meeting just last week. We'll move through this agenda, but if there's anything that you would like for me to clarify as we go through, please feel free to ask as always, and we'll work together on that. Next, we'll go to the Use of Force Policy Review Committee. We're joined this afternoon by John Button. And I believe, John, you can tell me if I'm incorrect. I just don't have Eric in front of me on the list here. If Eric Brown is joining us as well. But Mr. Button, we welcome you, and you have the floor.
Well, thank you for having me here again virtually. I'm here with my colleague, Eric Brown. Some of you know me already. I've had a chance to talk with many of you. John Bunton, Director of Policy and Community Safety. I'd like to take a moment and introduce Eric as well. Mayor Cooper has asked us to work together on pulling together and supporting a task force to review use of force policies. Eric, are you online?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can. I'd love to give you the floor for a minute and just have you introduce yourself to the members of the board.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Eric Brown. I'm a Nashville native. Before working with the mayor's office, I was an environmental organizer for a national organization. Was also a political director for a Phil Bredesen campaign. Before that, I worked with Children's Defense Fund, helped to do the Children's Defense Fund Nashville team here that was responsible for Freedom Schools. It's also here in Nashville. Went to American Baptist College, also Vanderbilt University. Just very happy to be on this call and speak with you or introduce myself to you all. Thank you.
And just a little background on the Use of Force Committee. So when President Obama issued his pledge to mayors, civilian oversight boards, and city councils to review use of force policies, Mayor Cooper immediately wanted to act on that promise. We have done so in two-step fashion. First, we wanted to look for ways that we could immediately clarify and strengthen policies in MNPD, particularly related to sort of the "we can't wait" principles. We also began work on the more ambitious project of assembling and supporting a use of force task force. We are currently in the process of assembling that group. Mayor Cooper very much made it clear from the beginning that he wanted to do this in partnership with the COB. On June the 15th, he sent a letter to Chairperson Davis and Director Fitchard asking the COB to begin an independent review of use of force policies and also to recommend best practices in this area. Since then, Eric and I have met with Director Fitchard and Dr. Wheeler to sort of talk about how that might work, what the community engagement part of that might be. We understand and respect the fact that you will be doing thorough, independent research, but we're looking forward to partnering with you on this important process.
Thank you, Mr. Button. Thank you, Mr. Brown, as well. Nice to meet you as well. We welcome you to the meeting. Let me open the floor here if there are any questions from the board here. Feel free to raise. I don't see anyone here raised. Oh, I do. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Button, for joining us today. In the mayor's letter to the COB, he mentions that the commission will share final recommendations, but there's no indication of what will be done with our recommendations once presented. So what accountability measures can we expect so that the community's recommendations get implemented?
I think part of the process of pulling together a use of force task force and, of course, working in partnership with the COB as it presents its own independent sort of investigation and set of recommendations is to assemble sort of a consensus perspective of opportunities to improve policies in this area. They'll be presented to the mayor, city council, and to the public. We're all looking for opportunities to improve policies, procedures, practices. And I think there will be overwhelming support for making adjustments to improve our policies in all of these areas.
Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
I have a couple of questions, but my first question is, you said the mayor is assembling a task force. Is it like who's deciding who is going to be on the task force?
So the mayor is assembling the task force. So there will be people that he reaches out and asks to serve on this.
Okay.
Process selection will work. Obviously, we are looking to have a very broad and representative group involved in this effort.
Okay, yeah, I think that provides a ton of clarity for me, but also why, like, what was the thought behind not leaning into the board? This board feels like a pretty good reputation of Nashville, and I think we could be equipped of doing that use of force. So I'm just curious about why not leaning into what we already have. And then I have one more question, Chair, if that's okay.
I would say, and jump in at any moment, Eric, that we absolutely do want to involve the COB in this. That was the purpose of the letter sent on June 15th. You have expertise and credibility, and we want you, of course, to look at this. We welcome the partnership to do that by assembling a broad and diverse group to also undertake an analysis of this. We think we bring more attention to this issue, and I think it'll be a step towards assembling a consensus beyond reforms. So this is a hugely important issue. We want to bring as much attention to bear on this as possible. And we think that the more people involved in this, the more attention it will receive.
Mr. Kamaguchi, you have said you have a second question or a third question?
I guess it's not a question, it's more like a statement, especially around the consistency beyond reform. I read the letter, and the task force and the assembling of people behind closed doors to make a decision and then issue the report amongst community members still feels like we're doing things that we've already done before. And I think everyone is trying to work in a graceful and in a consensus building way, but it seems to be an extreme disconnect because mayors previously have done this before. So I'm just voicing my concern as a community member who is also from here and seeing this done over and over again. It just feels like we're running on a treadmill. And that's all I had to say, Chair. Sorry about that.
No apology necessary, Mr. Kamaguchi. But Mr. Button, let me give you a moment to respond. Thank you.
I could speak to that, Eric. Do you want to speak to that issue, though? We've talked about this a great deal, and of course, we've both thought about how to make progress towards solutions and not revisit subjects that have been revisited in the past. But I'll let you say a little bit more about that if you care to.
Sure. Thank you for the question. For the comment, I apologize. I understand, and I do agree that things have been done before. I think at the end of the day, though, is if we want it to change, we have to be a part of making it change. And somebody does have to take that risk to break up something again that is not necessarily been taken care of the first time. And I think that's the task that's ahead of us. Yes, you're right. History does have a way of repeating itself, but I think at this moment where we're at, I'm willing to take on that challenge. I think John is willing to take on that challenge as well. And that's what we want to do, is to make sure that this works for our community.
Thank you. Ms. Ross, I see you here. I want to call on you. I just want the board to know for awareness here, and I know I said I was skipping over my remarks, but I want you to know what's on the other side of this discussion for us is to make a decision whether or not we accept this and want to move forward, accept the invitation to join the committee, to become a full member here, to have that space and that role as a COB to participate, especially considering all the things that many of you have already noted here. And I also think it's important to note and share with you what I expressed during my conversation with the mayor shortly after receiving the email with the letter, that as a board, we have found that we are most successful when we have an opportunity to engage the community. And so whether that's during using town halls where, and of course, we're in a bit of a virtual world and want people to stay safe, but we want to get the voice of the people before we go into those meetings and a representative is saying, this is what we're hearing from the community. We have to actually stop, listen, and hear the community. And so that would be a part of our process as far as the COB is concerned. Of course, we can't speak for the rest of the committee and what their actions will be, but I have to believe without a doubt that for us to be a good, work in good faith, we would have to plan out how we're going to engage the community and get their voice. So, Mr. Kamaguchi, I don't know if I mentioned that during the executive committee space, but should this vote pass, there's a motion and a vote pass for us to participate as a committee member here as chair. That would be my recommendation, is that we would follow suit in that way. Let me go next to Ms. Ross, then to Mr. Goddard, and then we'll go from there. Ms. Ross?
Yes. Thank you for responding. I would like to know the time frame to begin this committee, also the number of people, and I really hope that we reach deep down in the community to have community, not just leaders, pastors, and council people, but the actual people who live and work in the community. That's my concern.
Ms. Ross? Mr. Brown, or any response there?
Thank you. We hear that message loud and clear, and Eric and I have been working on pulling together a good list of candidates. And The timetable for this is President Obama's asked us to execute on this in 90 days. We want to do this as quickly as possible, but we also want to do this in a way which is very thorough. We very much recognize the COB's expertise in public engagement. We think that's an important part of the Obama pledge. We look forward to partnering with them to get that type of input, and have already begun some discussions about how that could work.
Thank you, Mr. Button. Mr. Goddard.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I am hoping we can approach this both with hope for what Mr. Button and Mr. Brown have described, and with caution with respect to the concerns that Mr. Campbell-Gooch has described. I believe it's an opportunity for our board, whatever representatives are chosen to participate in this committee, through their presence and engagement and arguments they can make, points they can raise, to take a leadership role in this. And I would hope we can charge our staff with supporting that in whatever way those members, representatives, feel is appropriate. But being aware of the caution I mentioned. And if I don't think this will happen, I'm very optimistic about this, but if it turns out this is just a repeat of the past and this is not getting the job done, my understanding is we are free to act simultaneously as the board that we are, with the charter authorization we have, and proceed with our own recommendations if we want. Again, I would not encourage us to quickly go there. I don't think that will be necessary, but worst case, we've still got that opportunity and that avenue to address these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goddard. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. Going back to the accountability question, I'm just pulling up the Metro Government Charter, and it states the Chief of Police shall make regulations with the approval of the mayor. And one of the powers given to us as a board is the power to make policy recommendations and have the Chief of Police respond to them. Is the mayor's office prepared to weigh in on the police department's acceptance or rejection of any of the COB's policy recommendations going forward?
Mayor Cooper is very committed to improving policy in this area, very much welcomes the COB's input, which is the reason why he reached out in the letter of June the 15th. And assembling a use of force task force is also part of his efforts to surface all the ideas that we can to improve policy in this area. So he is absolutely committed to improving and acting on any areas of improvement.
Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
So I mean, I kind of mirror what Mr. Martinez just mentioned, the forms of accountability, and I'm thinking about recommendations that would for the task force, so that this could some kind of way be different from what we've already seen for several years. And also, I'm struggling with the board's asking of our elected officials, whether it be the mayor, whether it be the chief of police, to come and participate in good faith, and constantly being told that we're doing something wrong or that olive branch has been too short. But to get to the recommendations, I think a couple of things. One, I think the kind of like what Ms. Ross said, that there's a deep outreach to community members who are not formally associated with any type of group, right? Community members who are on the ground. Two, I think those community members should be fairly compensated for their time, especially if they're asked to correct something that they didn't participate in creating. And then three, I think the task force should also include people who are formerly incarcerated or currently incarcerated, as well as being those people who are closest to the issue that we're trying to solve. And so I just wanted to voice and say again, I think in order for this to be different, there has to be a deep outreach into the community. And then also there needs to be a 30-day window so that it's not just words, but it's actually action happening quickly.
Message heard.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Any additional questions here by any members of the board? I don't see any other hands raised, but I want to be clear just in case anyone's having trouble with the function. Okay. Mr. Button or Mr. Brown, any closing remarks here from either of you gentlemen?
I just want to thank you for your time, and I also wanted to thank the COB staff and Director Richard for the work that they're undertaking. And I just want to reiterate that we're looking forward to engaging with them and doing some coordination during this process. I think it's a great chance to work together, and looking forward to their analysis.
Thanks to both of you for joining us this afternoon. You're welcome to certainly stay with us here. We just got a housekeeping rule. We'll put you on mute, but you're always welcome. This is a community affair. With that, board, and Dr. Lewis, I hope I see it says you have audio. Are you with us now? Okay, but you went on mute, but does that mean you're with us though?
Am I here?
Yes, you're there. Thank you. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you. So, board, now I would like to hear from you all. It sounds as if at least those speaking here have interest, but is there a motion here for the COB to accept the mayor's invitation and to join the committee? I will ask and just point out why the letter does not state it though. I think as your chair, I just do recommend that we continue to keep this community aspect of it all so that we are hearing from the community on what they want prioritized and heard. And so let me just pause here for comments and or for a motion.
So move. This is Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Goddard. Anyone second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Any focused discussion? All those in favor, let's vote, roll call vote rather, Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
I had a focused discussion, Chair.
Okay. Please, yes, no rush at all. Go ahead.
My question is for like board members, anyone can answer, but very specifically, Ms. Ross and Dr. Hildreth, those of us who do like extreme community outreach, do we need to build parameters around them actually doing like extreme outreach, like actually getting to those folks that Ms. Ross centered and our chair keeps centering in the conversation? Like, do we need to do any of that? I'm just curious about what other people think.
It was pointed, so let's go to Dr. Hildreth first here. Dr. Hildreth? Ms. Ross, sorry.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you to take Ms. Ross' comment first because part of my comment is a process that I want to bring to this. I hardly endorse that community voices need to lead, and I believe that it is especially true even on this board. And so I hope that we will finish having focused discussion where we hear from our appointed community members, because my vote is going to be informed by theirs. And then after you hear from Ms. Ross, I will respond to Member Campbell-Gooch's question.
Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. Ms. Ross.
Yes, I heard Mr. Button say that the mayor has already started his list. I'm just questioning who's on that list already. And I guess that's one thing that we don't know, but we definitely need to have our community people there, or if we participate, then we need to make sure that others from the community, deep down in the community, has knowledge that they can be part of this board or request to be part of the board committee. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ms. Ross. And we can come right back to Dr. Hildreth, but I think there's there's an opportunity for us here that our board members are raising here. Look, the letter was directed to myself and Director Fitchard my plan has always been that based on the response of the vote here to send a correspondence back to the mayor on behalf of the board, sharing the result of the vote here tonight. And in that letter, we can absolutely share that as a board, it is our strong confidence and belief that for this to move forward properly, encouragingly, productively, all of these things and more, that we also need to be very intentional about engaging the community that may not already be on his particular list. I welcome ideas here about how we make sure this is a very inclusive list. I think it should include all parts of the community. And we can send examples of those, groups and people maybe directly to a member of the MNCO staff, and I'll work with them to get that together. And we can send a very exhaustive list of who we will be reaching out to attend our town hall. But to Ms. Ross, your point here, even if they are not on the mayor's short list, they can certainly, and look, his list can only be so long for this committee that he's assembling. We can do our part to make that space. We can carve it out intentionally. Ms. Ross, I know I'm responding to yours directly, so if you have thoughts on that, please, I welcome it before we can go to Dr. Hill here. Not Dr. Hildreth?
Thank you. So I will share first a thought that I have responding to this conversation and the knowledge I've had about this issue and the task force leading up to it. I believe Mr. Bunton did express to us in this meeting that the genesis of this use of force task force lies in an initiative that former President Obama articulated, suggested as best practice. And while the suggestion may well align with our work, I do have concerns that go to the heart of Mr. Campbell-Gooch's question about process, about what it means when, once again, this community has been laboring meticulously, methodically, and relentlessly for years to build a process to the point where now it has a COB, and this COB, we must remember, has a provision in the current memorandum of understanding with the Metro Police Department, whereby our executive director sits on the use of force task force. So there's some internal mechanisms around review of use of force that we're already involved in. It seems a little bit troubling that we're called upon to now figure out how to work through hoops to meet an externally imposed time frame to do work that might not have been within the natural progression of our self-identified priorities, if that makes sense. So I would like to couch whatever conversation we're having, at least naming out loud the fact that this came from an external. And that may not be what our community needs. And so what does our community need? I will then come to Member Campbell-Gooch's question. I do believe that it's important for this board to take ownership of whatever process reaches out to community and ask community what it needs. And one of my reasons for doing so, and I will say with all transparency, in this meeting that I have had this conversation with Mr. Bunton and Mr. Brown, that the memory of this community is long. And this community remembers that in July and September of 2016, the mayor of this county, of this jurisdiction, did convene a conversation around race and did solicit recommendations from the community. And those recommendations were forthcoming, and they ended up being codified in a report that took 1 year to issue, was on the website up until this current administration took hold. And now I have not been able to find this report. And I've asked those in the mayor's office if they have, and I haven't heard back on that. And so we have to be aware of inquiry fatigue. What does it mean to keep asking people over and over again to give their opinion, to tell their stories about matters that are deeply important and deeply painful when they have not been listened to? And there comes a point where the offices are the ones that endure, irrespective of the incumbent. And so to break that particular chain, I believe it's important that whatever asking and answering and listening happen at this point be guided and directed by this board. So having said that, and Mr. Campbell-Gooch is well-versed in these matters, it will take a little time, particularly with the actual constraints that we have around meeting in light of COVID-19 safety. How do we move around this city? Is it possible to have small outdoor gatherings where persons can step to a mic and voice their opinions, and the board, assisted by the NNCO staff, can document those responses and then incorporate them into a response with the mayor's current proposed inquiry around use of force? Maybe if we're not able to do both, it might be more important for our board to focus on communicating with the community so that we can do that deep penetration, which means that we may not have the time or ability to be as actively engaged in recommending, if not controlling, the appointees to the actual task force. But if we can make sure that the task force does have to take up, consider, and be accountable to an agenda that has been recently documented as being voiced by the people, then that may be the work that our board can do, that we have been doing, that aligns with the priorities that we have already mapped out for ourselves. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. Any additional focused discussion here? Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
I also had like a process idea as Dr. Hildreth was speaking. I think, and this might be off topic because I think people are ready to vote, but I think if we go in the direction of a people's movement assembly and a people's participatory process, then I think we can literally get as much interaction as possible quickly on these ideas.
Mr. Campbell-Gooch, can you speak a little bit more to that? What does that look? What might that look like?
Yeah, so I'm centering like my experience with organizing with the People's Budget Coalition and how we were able to get over 6,000 people to participate in our city's budgeting process in 4 days, just by being like extremely dogged about like getting to the community, being on foot, organizing our neighbors, and just literally getting as many voices on one hand, but on the second hand, making the process easy and consumer friendly to where people were like happy to do it. And so I'm just like, there's already people-centered democracy systems in place across the country, like a people's movement assembly that looks a lot like a caucus, but stripped down in a way where people can just use the public education that they already have, and they can actually engage in use of force, and people can literally caucus around the idea and solutions and come together as a community and plan direct action. So that I was just wanting to give everyone on this call a piece of that so they can do their own research around what a people's movement assembly is, because I think that will help our outreach. I think that'll help us educate more community members on the COB and allow us to get deeper into the community, and at the same time, give them something new, because this right here is not new. You know, I'm getting flashes of 2015 Driving While Black, 2016 presentation to City Council, 2017 policing project. I'm getting all of this over and over again. So I'm just like, we need something new. And I think a people's movement assembly can cap everyone's voice and then use that information to literally plan a direct action moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. I take your point. I think in to this point too, we're in a position, I take your points. Thank you, Dr. Hildreth, as well. I don't know if I thank all the board members for expressing their perspective, but also the solutions that we have in front of us and ways that we can move forward. We're in the midst of focused discussion here, so we'll take the vote here, and then perhaps on the other side of this, depending on the result here, we look at what else might need to be built out, right? In addition to or instead of, right? So let's take the vote here, and then if there is no rushing here, but is there any additional focused discussion here by any members of the board? Okay. With that, Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
I'll vote aye, as long as we set up a process where there's some transparency built in.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Mr. Goddard.
Aye.
Dr. Hildreth.
I was hoping that the community members would vote before me. May I defer right now and answer later, or must I answer now?
Ms. Twinkley, you tell me what Robert's rules. I try to follow as close as I can here. I tend to try to go in alphabetical order. We do rather go in alphabetical.
I made the suggestion. It wasn't a motion that we hear from the community members first, but I will abide by whatever the rules are.
Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. With that, do you have, Mr. Pinkley, do you have an answer for me on that? Or I know
I don't have a straightforward answer for you. I think it would be fine if she defers until everyone else has voted and then we come back.
Okay. I'll allow here, and then if we can get an answer to that, if that happens to happen in the future, we can have a definitive response. Mr. Holloway?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Hughes?
I also vote aye with the caveat, as was mentioned earlier by Board Member Campbell-Gooch, that this needs to be a transparent process. But yes, my vote is aye.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Ross? Ms. Ross?
I vote aye with transparency along with Mr. Gooch and Mr. Hughes.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Witzel? Mr. Witzel?
Aye.
Thank you. And Dr. Hildreth?
Aye.
Sorry, Dr. Hildreth?
Aye. I vote aye.
Thank you. I vote aye as well. Thank you very much, everyone. Motion carries. I will, we can open up here if there's, hear the phrase transparency, and also there are ideas as well about how we might want to engage the community. I'm open to ideas on that as well. What is the best mechanism, especially as Dr. Hildreth said, we are working within the confines of trying to remain as safe as we can possibly all stay at all times. I think certainly we can emphasize that and give examples of that in response that includes the conditions of our participation. But I also would like for us to ensure that we're building out something that engages the community as well. And that is a bit of a personal privilege of mine, and just wanting to figure out what can we do most immediately. Are there ideas on that? Does anyone on the board feel similarly or have ideas about what that might look like? Oh, sorry if I'm missing something. Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
I'm thinking back to the time that we were negotiating the MOU, and we literally had a shadow meeting set up, I think with a couple of representatives from the board. So it was a public meeting where we literally allowed the person to just like debrief with us. And I think that's a mechanism by having a public hearing directly after or shadowing whatever task force it is. I think that could help and move toward the transparency that this board does so well, I think.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney.
Yes, I agree that the transparency and the broad participation in the community is essential. And I think that we should lay that out in the letter the way that view it. And the idea of a very, very deep dive, as Mr. Campbell Gooch discussed with regard to the budgeting, might produce particularly insightful results. And I would suggest that maybe you and Mr. Campbell Gooch and Director Fitchard and whoever else you all think appropriate actually spend the time to work with a letter to capture what we've talked about here as to how we think we can be effective members of an effective implementing committee. And so that's set out on the front end in that letter in a fair manner.
Thank you. I'm absolutely open to that conversation here. I won't speak for Mr. Campbell Gooch as well, but if there's other members that have interest in that too, Hutton in that regard would be fantastic. Let's we'll come back to that, to Dr. Hildreth. I believe I saw your hand here.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I hope I'm not out of order, but the exercise we just went through has sort of pricked my mind of the project that we have had together of continuing to build our processes, and sometimes things come up for the first time. I would like to ask, this is not a motion, but I would just like to ask whether either the executive committee or the rules committee could take up and think about what it would mean to have a voting rule so that when the topic is very specific about how do we reach community or hear community voices, that there would be an established way in which the roll call vote would call for the community appointed members before those appointed by the city council, which is the next sort of one tier away from direct representation to finally the mayors. I just think it's a process that we could look at, maybe come up with a solution to, and so we wouldn't have to do it on the fly in the future. And whatever is the appropriate way for our body to pick that up going forward, I would ask that that consideration be given. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. What we have several options here. Look, I believe it in Mr. Pinkley here, please correct me, would have the authority to kind of appoint, they say, a committee of one, but for this one, I think, especially because of needing to have more than one voice in this space, this would need to meet quickly, though. Open to assembling a space. It doesn't have to be more than an hour, and we'd want to do our homework before we come together just on how do we want to frame the options to ensure, perhaps it's option A and B or A or B, but I'd like to offer ideas, and this takes more than just something we do in a general board meeting. You need brainstorming and an opportunity to think critically, both before and during the meeting. So if the board is okay with it, look, and I don't know what we call this, if this is just an ad hoc gathering of sorts, then you all tell me what the language needs to be properly, but I do want to get this right for a lot of reasons here. So Mr. Pinkley, you tell me, does the nature of this sound like it would be an ad hoc since it would be for one specific purpose and then we would disband, or would it perhaps be something else?
I think you could go either way. I think you could do it as an ad hoc group that meets this one time and then is disbanded, or you could assign it to, if this is something that we're going to address in our rules, you could assign it to the Rules and Bylaws Committee and have them meet to discuss the best way to handle that. It's entirely up to you.
Okay. And if the Rules Committee were to take this on, the reason why I'm hesitating there is because as chair, I do need to have space here so that I don't know how that would work. Is chair kind of an automatic attendee or participant of all the committees here? Because I'd want to be able to be vocal and helpful as since it would be under my name when the letter goes out. Does that make sense?
That does. I don't know that there's anything that would limit your ability to join the committee, since it'll be a public meeting. So
okay,
all the board members are invited to attend, and participation is up to the committee when the committee meets.
Yep. Okay. Let's do it this way. Our boards, our rules and bylaws, they do quite a bit for us. Let's go the ad hoc route here, and tell me again. I want to do this properly, but I'd like to ask: is there a volunteer that board members plural that would like to be a part of this? And we can certainly work together. I see hands here, Mr. Sweeney, and then Mr. Campbell-Gooch. If there's Mr. Witzel as well. Go right ahead. We'll start with you, Mr. Sweeney.
Yes, my thought is that this committee could very effectively be one that would go on for a while. So not only would it, be involved with or be responsible with you for the drafting of the letter, accepting the mayor's invitation, but it could then also, in essence, shadow that task force in order to kind of take principal responsibility to support or be a liaison, quick acting liaison between whoever is the actual board representatives, whichever, on the mayor's committee, and the community resources that we would be magnifying. And so I think that it's a committee that should have a life as long as that task force, and perhaps longer, and basically be members of the community, or those with most direct access to the community.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. I take your point. It's an important one and a very valuable one as well. You need to have a separate use of force policy review committee. Quite frankly, it might just very well be the name of it. And for it to exist for as long as the cause is necessary, which may be much longer than one meeting. Let me go next to Mr. Witzel here.
Yes, I was just volunteering to be a part of that, and I did have a question to go along with that. How does it work in terms of, for ad hoc meeting, like determining how it's who's running it or who's taking lead on that?
Yes, Mr. Witzel, great question. So we have be a motion to create the committee, and usually, quite frankly, and Mr. Pinkley, remind me if I'm wrong here, but I believe it's been a matter of me asking if someone wanted to volunteer, or me asking someone, specifically if they would be open to the opportunity. Am I right about that?
That is generally how we've done it. And when there hasn't been, I guess, a leader of the committee appointed, usually the committee has just taken a vote or a motion at the first meeting to appoint someone as the head for that committee.
Yeah, that's generally how it's worked, Mr. Witzel. If you have a motion though to create such a committee, you're welcome to do so, and we can certainly move forward from there on leadership. Does that answer your question, Oslo?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Witzel. Anyone? Ms. Ross?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we develop a standing use of force policy committee, and I would be glad to volunteer to participate.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Thank you very much. Anyone second?
Second.
Mr. Witzel? Mr. Witzel, did I cut you off? Were you seconding that?
Yes, I was seconding.
Thank you. Any focused discussion here? Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
I would like to volunteer as well.
Thank you. So, and we'll take focused discussion here just on the motion at hand, and I can come back here for participants. Thank you. Any additional focused discussion here as it relates to the motion on the floor? Not. Let's take a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
Aye.
Mr. Goddard?
Aye.
Dr. Hildreth?
Aye.
Mr. Holloway?
Aye.
Mr. Hughes?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Witzel?
Aye.
Thank you, and I vote aye as well. Thank you, everyone. So I understand, at least from the conversation here on the committee, that volunteers to participate have Ms. Ross, Mr. Campbell Gooch. Any other members of the board here that I've missed here?
I'd like to volunteer.
Mr. Witzel, thank you very much. If anyone has additional expressed interest, feel free to please reach out. Dr. Fisher, if you don't mind, you can receive that. I myself and volunteering will participate as well, but the four of us, at least as it stands, will find time as early as, let's see here, we're in the middle of the week here. It may be hard with everyone's schedule for Friday connection, but let's look for early next week to connect so that we can have a quick movement here with the short week of the holiday, with many people being gone towards the end of the week. Thank you, everyone, for that. Next on our agenda here is to discuss the Executive Director report. Director Fisher, I know that, let's see here, I believe, yes, we got audio and everything else we need. So Director Fisher, you'd have the floor.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm going to go through we've covered, John and Eric covered some of the topics, but I'll go through the topics, and then I'm going to, since it's so much information, I think that we can stop when I get to certain parts and ask so I can answer the questions. So we've talked about the teleconference meetings. The MNCO office, it remained closed during the month of June, but we have informed the staff of the MNC's COVID-19 safety plan to keep the office sanitized and the requirement of wearing masks when working in the office. That's been mandated by Mayor Cooper. So we are working towards creating a safe plan of action to reopen our office and for us to return. And we have received guidance from the Metro Human Resources Office this week. We have continued with training, and that's been done by webinar, and it's been hosted by NACO. There's been some forums as well. It's really been focused on investigations, policing, and incarceration during this climate that we have, especially when it pertains to police reform and, a pandemic. The MNCO research team continues to research. Dr. Valier and Liz Orozco worked on the 8 Can't Wait research project, and Ms. Orozco is continuing with her work on the language outreach report. Community outreach, we have continued to keep up our social media platforms to make certain that the Nashville community is connected, and we have had a lot more engagement during this time on our social media platforms. And Ms. Thompson, our community liaison, is working on a newsletter to highlight important issues for the community. And so that'll be coming out in July of 2020. Our complaints and contacts, we continue to receive calls from the public to initiate complaints. We've received 6 of those complaints since our last board meeting in May. And we've assisted with about 50, maybe approximately 50, maybe a little more of non-complaint calls for service as of June 19th. And so I'm going to move into the officer-involved shooting. So on Wednesday, June 3rd, myself and Assistant Director Clausey and MNCO Investigator Ramirez received an ECC notification at 6:10 a.m. that stated there was an officer-involved shooting. It said officer-involved shooting command established, and it included the address. I asked Mr. Clausey to contact the DEC manager on duty to get more information about the incident. We got that information. And then we all arrived at the location at approximately 7:10 a.m. MNPD, there was an MNPD officer in the staging area where the media and the public were, and he asked us to wait at that place, and which was on the outer perimeter of the crime scene. So that's what we waited. And so we noticed around 7:35 a.m., OPA Director Kathy Moranti and her investigator arrived at that time. And then shortly after that, the OPA investigator walked into the inner perimeter of the crime scene. And that was at approximately 7:44 a.m. OPA Director gave us a very brief update of the situation because we didn't really know what was occurring, and stated that she did not have any further information to share with us. She also did not go into the crime scene area, but stayed in the staging area with the MNCL, the media, and the public. She stated that she decided to stay outside of that crime scene in that inner perimeter on that particular day, and then she didn't give an explanation as to why. The MNCL team observed multiple civilians in the inside of the perimeter, to include FOP attorneys, the assistant district attorney, the DA investigator, and the MNPD PIO, which is Don Aaron. And so we stayed at the scene for approximately 2 hours without an update from MNPD. And so additionally, we were not authorized to proceed into the inner perimeter of the crime scene because no one approached us or talked to us or updated us. At some point, I decided it was right around 9 a.m. to leave the area. And then shortly after leaving the area, I received a call from Mr. Bunton in the mayor's office. And we talked for a few minutes. He asked me to return to the crime scene for a briefing. I declined because I was already headed out of the area and in the opposite direction. But I told him that I would watch the media briefing online that Don Aaron was giving to the media and to the public. At some point, there was some talk about the MNCO being invited back to the scene later that morning once the scene was released. But the notification that came to the MNCO investigators and myself, that came around 11:44 a.m. And it didn't mention that specifically. It only read an officer-involved shooting, and it gave the address. So we figured that it was just a duplication of the earlier notification, and we didn't follow up because the notification didn't trigger a response. Is there any questions about that? So the next thing that we did in regards to
Director Fitcher, I believe Mr. Campbell-Gooch has a question.
Okay, sure.
I just want a clarifying point, Dr. Fitcher, because Director Fitcher, first I want to say, I appreciate you walking us through your experience at this crime scene, because I think it gives me the perfect picture of what it is. So I just want to make sure I have it correct. Sure. I'm just going to simplify it as best I can. So it seems like now what's happening is they're limiting the access of OPA so that in turn limit our access, but civilians are still getting access to the scene. But from what I'm understanding, even OPA still has more access in that limitation, right? Am I saying that right?
Yes, I would say that's correct.
Okay, and so the civilians who are a part and who get access to the actual crime scene, are there any conversations on why they're able as civilians to get access and we are not?
So no, this was the first time I observed that because, with the other crime scenes, we weren't even that close to see anything. So this was my first time really being able to take in what was occurring on the crime scenes, to also be able to determine where the inner perimeter was, where the active perimeter was, and where the outer perimeter was in relation to where we were standing. And so I was just making certain that as I, was observing what was happening, that I was also documenting who was civilians that I knew. There could have been more civilians, I don't know. But the people that I knew were civilians I was documenting. So yeah, there hasn't been any conversation about it. Now, we did talk a little bit about it, and I'll get to that part after I had a meeting. There was a subsequent meeting scheduled for the next day. So I can get into that a little bit more. But at that particular point, when we were at that scene, Director Moranti decided not to go into the scene or was told not to go. I don't really know what it was about, but she did not go into the scene. And so what that did was it hindered us from moving into the scene based on the rule that's based in the language in the MOU.
Okay, and that makes sense. And then my last question was, when Mr. Bunton asked for you to return to the scene to debrief, did he go into any detail about who you were going to be debriefing with?
No. I assumed that when I was being debriefed that it would be by Mr. Aaron, because he was there and he was setting up and getting ready. And so, and the media was right where we were located. And so that was my assumption.
Thank you, Director.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, two things, Director Fitchard. If I understood correctly, although Director Moranti stayed outside, her investigator was allowed to enter the perimeter as soon as OPA arrived, correct?
That is correct. They arrived around 7:35, and around 7:44, one of the investigators went in immediately, and then it was a short time later, and I didn't document it, but another one of her investigators arrived, and he also went into the scene.
Okay, so the fact that the OPA director was staying outside, they had begun their process because at least one and possibly two of their investigators were allowed in while COB was not.
That is correct.
Okay. And then I don't want to jump ahead too far, but just to put it in context, as a result of what happened here at the scene, there's then been a meeting which was for the purpose of correcting what happened that day. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, well, I won't jump ahead at this point, but I just wanted to see if I had that context right. Thank you.
Welcome. All right, and so what happened next was we decided to move forward in the investigation and go ahead and request records. So we requested the arrest report, the incident, and the CAD reports. And we also requested the personnel and disciplinary files of the officers involved. All MMPD and ECC records are pending at this point because, of course, it's an open case, but we've had some new developments since then. But investigators will send an updated request to the DA's office since we now have a new process in place, and I'll get to that shortly. And we were also able to get request and obtain the warrant, which is the affidavit from the criminal clerk's office without any problems. And so I'm going to move right into that meeting since it happened it happened the next day. So Thursday, June the 4th, I met with John Bunton and Deputy Chief Hagar to discuss the issues that we experienced at the scene of the shooting in North Nashville on June 3rd. And so the meeting with John Bunton and Deputy Chief Hagar was to discuss multiple issues, including that particular ECC notification that they said was sent to us to tell us that come back to the scene because the scene had been cleared and we could walk through it. But that was at 11:44 a.m. and we weren't aware that that's what that was. So we met for about an hour. The meeting was focused on expectations and it focused a little bit about the breakdown in communication. We were able to come up with some solutions to resolve some of the issues. Deputy Chief Hagar gave me the name of Captain Jason Starling, who heads the CID unit, and he is our point of contact going forward. After the meeting, Captain Starling emailed me with an introduction of himself and gave me a contact number for him as well. And also Assistant Director Clausey has his number too. Deputy Chief Hagar also briefed me on who I should contact via DEC, like call into DEC, and I should ask for an MMPD field supervisor on duty if I have problems in the future. And also we came up with, if there's another officer involved shooting, hopefully there won't be, that if one takes place, John Bunton and Deputy Chief Hager will both respond to the crime scene to get a better understanding of how things are designed to work, to make certain that they're going the way that they're supposed to be designed to work. And so we spent the biggest part of the meeting speaking about the crime scene and what went wrong and how we can fix it. And regarding the records issue, we didn't spend a whole lot of time on that. Is there any questions about that?
Mr. Sweeney?
Are you satisfied with the resolution as far as site access at this point?
Excuse me. I think that, and I'm going to get into this in a little while in regards to the MOU. I definitely think that there was some issues that I find that could possibly be a hindrance to us having access to those crime scenes, especially if our ability to go into a crime scene is hinged upon, the OPA civilian director going in. And if she doesn't show up, then we will never have that kind of access. And so that is a concern for me. I think that we need to strengthen our MOU. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm going to also talk to you a little bit about our conversation and our meeting with TBI and what they have come up with as well to try to help bridge this issue. So at this point, if I hear you correctly, I would say, no, I'm not satisfied with it.
Okay, so currently, if there's another of these incidents and you show, and an OPA investigator is allowed in, will the COB investigator be allowed in at the same time?
From my understanding, no.
And what is the reason given for why the OPA investigator will be allowed in, but ours will not?
Because an OPA investigator is a sworn officer.
Okay. And what is the reason for there being a sworn officer distinction? Why is that significant, whether or not the investigator is or is not a sworn officer?
I don't have an answer for that. I don't know.
Okay.
Mr. Ross?
Just clarification, and Mr. Sweeney, several of us are having a problem hearing you. You say that the OPA investigators are sworn officers?
Yes, ma'am.
Active duty?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a comment and a question. My first comment is in response to Mr. Sweeney's comment around what's the justification. If you want a research point, it's called the blue veil. It's literally to prevent community organizing and community-driven work from being able to literally see what's going on behind that blue veil. And then second, I'm just curious around how I see in here where Director Fisher, you talked about the meeting was solution driven and overall productive, but I'm having a difficult time of measuring that with just those words. So I just wanted you to speak more to that because quite frankly, this feels like the rodeo that we've been in for a long time. So I'm just curious about, like, when you say overall productive, what does that mean?
When I said overall productive, I meant the conversation was when we talked about solution driven, like I was able to distinguish like who I need to contact if there's an issue. The captain from CID is the main person, sort of like the watch commander, that he would be that person that I would contact if we had information. And he's also the person that will be briefing us. So now when I go out on the scene, I know to look for Captain Sterling or Starling, opposed to just asking, whoever's around, can you tell me what's happening? So I have that point of contact. And then also, if I'm not able to reach the people that I need to reach, or if there's something else going on, that I do have this opportunity to reach out to this field supervisor from, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So that's the part that I was talking about, was solution driven. But as for all the other issues, that is going to be something that I think will be picked up and addressed in possibly, and we're going to talk about that in our MOU discussion, because I think that the issues that are the main issues have to be addressed through the renegotiation of the MOU. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I have a statement.
Thank you.
We hadn't got to this point yet, but it's been announced that the chief is retiring. So in the process of selecting a new one. So hopefully this new chief that's being selected, we will groom him and get him in place so we can get him on the right track with what we are doing.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway. We can certainly discuss it. I take your point about where we are right now. We can certainly circle back to that. Any additional questions here? As Director Fitchett is in the midst of her Executive Director report. Not Director Fitchett, feel free to conclude here, or to continue, rather.
All right, so, sorry. So we had that meeting, and then the next day, which was Friday, June 5th, myself, A.D. Clausey, and legal advisor Todd Creepley met with legal director Bob Cooper to discuss our lack of receiving the records that we need from MMPD and the DA because of this Rule 16 criminal rules of procedure issue. And so, Mr. Cooper asked me to send him over a list of essential records that we would need. And so I did that because I've always, thought that Rule 16 did not apply to these administrative investigations. So I wanted to bring that in front of, Director Cooper to get his take on it. And what happened was he walked us through what he thought, and we talked about it, and we told him what records that we had been denied. And so he said that he was going to take that up with, Mr. Funk and the police department. He was going to also do some research on it. And then, like I explained to him, it says that, basically that the common thread here is that the MNCO have been denied records on open cases on basically every investigation that we had because of the Rule 16 issue. And so we got through that. It was about a week and a half later. And then on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, which was the 16th, I spoke to Mr. Cooper, and he emailed me an agreement between Chief Anderson and the District Attorney General, Glenn Funk, that gives the District Attorney General's office the authority to release the records to us, the records that had been denied in the past. And also that those records are still subject to the confidentiality requirements. So we haven't, at this point, tested that and figured out all the logistics. But A.D. Clausey has been in contact with the DA liaison, Ms. Jenny Charles, and they have kind of worked out the processes, or they're working on the processes on how we will go about making those requests. And so we will put that to test this week and find out if we're able to get the records that we need. Now, the issue with that is the records that are not connected to a criminal court case. We still have to get those records from MMPD. And we just don't know what that is, because if it's not connected to a criminal court case, we should be able to get the records. But I still would say, and this is an MOU issue, that we shouldn't have to order those records as a public entity. We should be able to get those records directly from Metro, from the OPA or whomever, and not have to go through this public records situation that we currently have in place. And so, any questions about that? All right, and moving right along. On Thursday, June the 11th, I sent an email to Chief Steve Anderson requesting a response to the COB's policy advisory report, which was the examining local law enforcement and immigration enforcement actions. I had sent that to him on April the 16th of 2020. Chief Anderson sent his response to the recommendations on June 14th, Sunday, June 14th, 2020, and those recommendations were forwarded to the board for review. I also reached out to the Department of Communications Executive Director, Stephen Martini, to ask about his response to the number 4. And he has been in communication with me and MNCO researcher Liz Orozco. And I'm going to give her the opportunity to update because there was a little confusion initially about the recommendation. And so he has been really wonderful and gracious to give us a really deep dive and give us a great response. Liz, if you can come on board.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So yes, I had a great talk with Director Martini earlier this week. He has been super helpful, and we were able to clarify, I think, some miscommunication about what DEC thought we were looking for. And so we were able to figure out what it would take on DEC's end to get us the information that we were looking for. And he actually did follow up this morning and sent us an initial pull of information. So we're going to be talking more about that moving forward, but he has been super helpful, and we are moving forward on cleaning up that information, and we'll be able to update you all on that soon.
Thank you. Any questions about that?
I
don't believe so. Oh, wait, Mr. Martinez. Apologies. And then Mr. Stoney.
Can you let us know what specifically you were discussing with Mr. Martini?
Yeah, so the recommendation that we had put forth in the immigration report regarding the number of times that emergency services or MMPD had been sent to respond to a call put in by an agent from ICE. And they at DEC were having some trouble pulling those records, but it turns out that we just needed to change some of the keywords that they were using in searching their CAD report narratives. And so now that we've got a more effective report query, they were able to pull the information that we were looking for. And so I was sent a very raw pull of that information this morning. So it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of cull through that because some of those results are not what we're looking for. And then we'll be able to get a clearer picture that we can pass on to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Liz. I'm going to, since we are moving right along, I want to talk a little bit about some of the meetings that I've had. I'm going to skip around a little bit because I have them kind of in order by date, but I want to talk about my meeting with the District Attorney General. He and I have had multiple calls in regards to some of the things that he wanted to be able to help the MNCO with. And I mentioned at the last meeting that he has, I'm going to recap it. He has given us access to view unredacted body-worn camera and in-car camera footage through the DA's office. That will be, he has a viewing room over at the Birch Building, and he's assigned a liaison. And he said that we could come over and watch the video, and we can look at it in its unredacted form. He said that if we needed a copy, that he would request that we get a court order. In addition to that, he said that they would not oppose the court orders except in very rare circumstances. He said as long as our counsel gives them a day's notice to review, he would let the court know that they have no opposition to the court order in that specific case. And then this would help get the material to us very quickly. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about the records issue that I brought to him as well. And so that had been resolved between he and Director Cooper, as well as Chief Steve Anderson. So I believe that that's really good progress. And so he also, I like to thank General Funk for scheduling a meeting between myself and the TBI agent in charge, which is Mr. Winkler, Agent Winkler, to discuss crime scene access and access to records. We were able to work towards an agreement with the TBI. And so this agreement is, to get us into the crime scene. And what Mr. Winkler says is this. This came this afternoon because we had to clarify some things, but he said that he would give us access to the crime scene with the understanding that our investigation of the scene will take several hours. He would feel comfortable with escorting 1 to 2 of the MNCO representatives through the scene, but only after they are reasonably confident that they've located and marked all possible physical evidence, mapped and measured all evidence, photographed, videoed, and scanned the scene. And once they've reached that point, he would be okay with escorting 1 to 2 representatives through the scene, although that will probably not occur until a later stage of the scene investigation. He says he thinks that an appropriate time to escort them through would be just prior to them collecting and packaging the evidence, so that the MNCO could observe the evidence as they have found it, and those evidence markers would be there, of course. And so that is where I will end with that. And if you all have any questions, I'll be glad to take them on that.
Mr. Sweeney.
A couple things. How would the court order work to get information, since we're not part of any legal proceeding?
Yeah, so we discussed that, and he mentioned the court. So there was 2 things, and Mr. Pinkley, you can help out with this, but he mentioned that we would get a court order and take it in front of a general sessions judge. And I was like, okay, that, I don't know about that. And so I'm not really sure. We hadn't worked it out in regards to whether it would go to Chancery Court or to the General Sessions Court. But he thought, since it was a criminal case, that it would go to the General Sessions Court, and that Mr. Pinkley would, draft up an order and take it over to the court, and the judge, and the judge would hear it.
And the defendant in the case would have to agree with us getting it? I mean, how are we working on an ex parte order or an order for all for not a part of it?
Yeah.
I just don't understand how that works.
Yeah, I don't know yet. Mr. Pinkley, do you have anything to say about that? Do you recall how he worked that out, or what he said?
I don't know exactly all the details on how that's going to work out. I would like to have a meeting with either our liaison or with General Funk to kind of work out the details of how that's going to play out in practice, as opposed to in theory.
Okay. And then on the TBI situation and the walk around, is that the same way that the OPA investigator is going to have access? Are we going to have equal access to the OPA investigator under this understanding with the TBI?
That part isn't clear. We initially sent him a bullet, a list of a recap of our conversation, and talked about the crime scene, and then that's what he responded to and said that's what he would be offering. So when we looked up the TBI agreement with the MMPD, there was some talk on where an OPA or the person that's conducting the administrative investigation where they could have access, and they had named multiple perimeters. And so this doesn't necessarily say that where this would be. And it doesn't necessarily say that where we would be until all of this happened. So I think that's what your question is, like where would we be standing during the time?
I think it needs to be clarified that either two things is going on. That either we will have equivalent access to the OPA investigator, and then we may be okay for the time being, or that we're not, and then there's an issue that has to get resolved, because it makes no sense at all to me why the OPA investigator would have any greater access than we do, whether it's a sworn officer or not. And therefore, I think that's something that we need to be clear about. And they either acknowledge that, yes, we are, or no, we're not. And then if it's no, we're not, that's an issue that has to get resolved.
I agree. And so that would be resolved with TBI. And so I don't know what that looks like yet.
Discussions back and forth. I mean, to go back to Winkler and say, this is great, thank you, this is helpful. We just want to make clear that our investigator will be able to come in the same time that the OPA investigator, right?
Okay. Sure.
Then if he says no, then we know no that he says no, and then to find out why. What is the OPA investigator doing that's part of the TBI investigation that's any different from what our investigator would be doing? I think the answer is none.
I would agree, yes. All right, that's something I'll check on.
Mr. Kennedy?
To kind of cap what board member Smith is saying, I think the Community Oversight Board investigators should have more access to crime scenes than OPA. Just generally off the fact is that this board is people-centered and rooted in the people's participation in their democracy. So I just wanted to say that, one. And then two, Jill, Director Fitch, I want to ask you directly, would it bring some clarity if we were to find or just sign MOUs with these bodies? Would that bring clarity to the organization or to just like your staff and your position?
Yeah, I think MOUs would be fantastic. I think that the MOU is very clear. We all know what the parameters are. We know where we're supposed to be. And yes, I think that MOUs are helpful.
So with that, Chair, I have a motion. A motion that we pursue an MOU with TBI.
Thank you, Mr. Kambaguchi. Mr. Kambaguchi's made a motion that we pursue a MOU with TBI. We want a second.
Second, this is Adele Lewis.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Any focused discussion here? Mr. Sweeney, is your hand raised?
No, it's not.
Okay. Anyone have any focused discussion here? Now we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Kambaguchi?
Aye.
Mr. Goddard?
Aye.
Dr. Hildreth?
Aye.
Mr. Holloway?
Aye.
Mr. Hughes?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Witzel?
Aye.
Thank you. I vote aye as well. Thank you very much. Be clear, point of clarification here on my part. I want to be clear that unless there's something extraordinary here, this sounds like it would be an undertaking of our Rules Committee. Is that correct, Mr. Pinkley, your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Laws and Rules Committee, chaired, I believe, and led by Mr. Sweeney. Is that your understanding too? Mr. Sweeney?
Sorry. Yes, I agree, although I think much of the MOU can be done administratively by the staff themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the Rules Committee will be more than glad to be a part of the process.
Absolutely. Okay. Could I just ask Mr. Sweeney if you could confer with Mr. Pinkley, as I'm sure MCO without a doubt should lead these efforts of the substance of it, and then if you all could just keep us abreast so we can make some intentional progress here before the next time we meet, if that's possible.
Sure.
Thank you. Any additional comments here, Mr. Campbell-Gooch? Is your hand raised?
Yeah, I had another question for Director Fisher.
Yes.
So, thank you once again for this report. This is lovely. I love this information. And it also seems like we're picking up steam with our relationship development with the DA's office. So my next question is, do you think having an MOU that thoroughly explains how we are to get access to that body cam footage, would that be helpful?
Well, I don't know about an MOU for the body cam footage, because I think at this point he, is saying that he's going to give us the body cam footage, that we have access to review it without it being redacted. That's also including body cam and in-car camera. And that if in fact we need, the camera footage for whatever reason, then we can have this order. I think the biggest point is trying to figure out what this order actually looks like, how we would be able to go about it. We're not, I don't know, it does seem a little complicated for us to get an order to get footage, to have our own copy. I think that's an issue because there's an issue with the body cam footage, giving copies of it, because other entities and defense attorneys, they haven't even worked that out with them as well. And so I don't think that they have those protective orders in place at this point. And so I don't really know how effective a MOU would be for the body cam footage, to be honest.
Excuse me, Ms. Fisher, Mr. Holloway. Can I go ahead and speak?
Absolutely.
I think we still need to pursue that we request a copy of the tape. You said they hadn't worked it out with the defense attorney. That's the defensive problem. We need to work by ourselves. We need to make sure that we can get access to it, do a complete investigation.
Okay, I'm fine with it. I just know that I know that they were talking about protective orders in place, and so we also are covered under the confidentiality rule, whatever the statute. So if we want to do that, I'm not opposed to it.
Thank you. Any additional comments, questions here before we move forward? Mr. Campbell-Gooch, is your hand raised?
Yeah, it is, and I was thinking maybe this is the thing that puts our mayor in a position where he has to put skin in the game. Because I feel like, and I'm sorry, and I'm leaning on the collective knowledge of the people, these 25 people here. It feels like the way our local government is set up in being a mayor-led organization, that it feels that all it would take is a letter or some type of dissent decree or an executive order from him to allow us to get access, unfettered access to the body cam footage, but I'm not sure.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Any additional comments, questions, thoughts here you want to share on this topic? Not Director Fisher.
I just want to say I have been working with the Metro Public Health Department. We had our first meeting on June the 11th. We have one scheduled this evening. That is going really well in regards to the access to MMPD having access to positive COVID tests. And so we have come up with some, myself and a couple other people in the working group have come up with some recommendations. And so we're going to discuss those this evening. And I'll keep you posted on that. And I think that concludes my executive director's report.
Thank you, Director Fitchard. Any additional questions, comments here for our executive director? Echo Mr. Kamaguchi's points here. Thank you, Executive Director Fitchard, for a very thorough report. I believe we do have coming here, though, Mr. Sweeney.
Yeah, if I could go back to one thing. Director Fitchard, you were talking about the Chief Anderson's response to our public policy recommendation. He declined to accept any of our recommendations. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It seemed that in the recommendation response, he would say that he took it a portion, like he would say, I agree in part. And then he would give an explanation on, why he didn't agree. And so it wasn't really clear. And it just seemed to me that he did not accept any of the recommendations.
Okay. So have we sent it back to our policy folks to do a close review of what he said as far as what he might have implied he agreed with in part, and then what he seemed to reject more broadly in whole, in order to see if there's further room for discussion, or do you have a strategy as to how we pursue the policy recommendations through the other channels of government here, meaning the mayor or the council or the public or otherwise?
Yeah, so I did send it to our research team to review it. We haven't had an opportunity to really discuss it, but I thought sending it to the board first to get an opportunity to review it and to have comment and feedback from the board is kind of like where we just kind of stopped and put a pin in it.
Well, you haven't asked us to do anything with it.
Well, then that's my next step.
Okay. I think it would be useful.
Okay.
In presenting to the board kind of an analysis of the response and a recommendation to the board as to how to proceed. Meaning, are there areas that look like they're appropriate for further discussion or with the MNPD? Or is this such a wholesale rejection that it doesn't appear fruitful to go in that direction? And there's a different direction that we should go in, whether it's to, the mayor, the council, or the public, or some combination of those. I think it would be very helpful for you to present it in a way that we can focus it and then discuss options and alternatives based upon an analysis.
Okay, thank you. We'll get that out to you soon.
Any additional comments, questions here? No, thank you very much, Executive Director Fitchard. Let's move on to the MOU discussion.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. All right, so, excuse me. With the MOU, after working with the current MOU for the last 6 months, we've been able to determine that the MOU that we currently has some areas that weren't working for us to be effective and timely, and essentially it tied our hands. Some of the issues have been addressed, like the crime scene access and the records requests to a certain degree. There are still a few areas that need to be revised and revisited, and we included that language in the updated draft version of the MOU that was sent. And since that's been sent, we also have a couple more items that we need to add to it. The sections that we updated were the cooperation and access to records, the intake investigations, the administrative leave and alternative duty assignment, the resolution reports, the policy advisory, the force review board, the crime scene access, and training provided by MMPD. And so we believe that there definitely needs to be a revisit in the MOU to strengthen it because there are some very weak areas and we weren't able to know that right up front. But as we've been working with this MOU since January, we're able to see where those gray areas are. And so I'll take any questions now.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yeah, two things, a comment and then a request or a suggestion. The comment is it seems like what we find is that although we and OPA have equivalent responsibilities, different but equivalent responsibilities, and in certain ways, as Mr. Campbell-Gooch has pointed out, ours are heightened. While the MOU was designed in order that we would get the information that we can operate within our area of responsibility. In operation, it hasn't functioned that way, and there's not an equivalence between the two parties that are charged with investigating alleged misconduct. And that the OPA needs to be rewritten, revised. And I think that it's important for the mayor to publicly state that he supports the equivalency, although maybe that's not the right word, but the equivalency between COB and OPA on investigations, and that we're treated the same, we have the same access, we get the same documents, we get into sites, we get into them the same way. No additional hoops, no additional time, no additional process, and that the MOU be specifically drawn that way. I do remember that when we did the original MOU, certain aspects of it were designed to be general. And because it was thought that there would be a working relationship and that the MOU would demonstrate the working relationship. And therefore there could be a certain amount of generality for the purpose of developing cooperation. I think the 6 months has shown that it hasn't worked that way. And therefore, some of the specifics that we originally had in our draft, which did not make it into the final, need to come back into the MOU. And other matters need to be clarified and specified, but with very, very clear defining position that COB and OPA are treated the same. In that sense, they're different, they function differently, but that, you know, as far as documents and witnesses and scene access and all like that, they're the same. And it needs to be clear, and I suggest that this is a matter that should come back to the Rules Committee to work with the Executive Director, and that with a revised draft, that there then be movement on the task force in order to do it, because I think the conversations make clear here today that even though there's been progress that's been made in discussions with the various parties associated with the police department and the TBI, we're still not at that area of equivalence. And so I think we really need the public stated support of the mayor and then the MOU to bring it full circle.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Anyone else here? Dr. Hildren, see you.
Thank you. I strongly endorse Member Sweeney's comments and analysis, primarily because I am concerned about how a renegotiation even occurs effectively in this season of post the announcement of the chief's intended retirement. What is the chain of command who actually has the authority to negotiate and bind on the part of the police department? And so, even having said that, ultimately, the conduct of the police is the responsibility of the mayor. And so, since the mayor changes not, the mayor would need to make that clear statement of support and intent so that the second part of Member Sweeney's analysis, with which I also agree, is that all of the requests for specificity, time frames, place, location, et cetera, should come back into the document for further negotiation. Thank you.
Mr. Hughes, did I see your hand raised? Mr. Hughes,
thank you so much. Yes, you did see my hand raised. Specifically, I wanted to get Dr. Hildreth's perspective, as she was a part of the original negotiation process with regard to how this relationship was adjudicated. I appreciate her making the contribution of her comment.
Thank you. Mr. Kambagooch?
First, let me apologize. If you hear some squeaking, that's my puppy in the background wanting to play. But I have like a couple, I've read through Todd's adjustments, and I just like had a couple of questions as far as just like what the thinking was, but also is there a way we can make it stronger? So I don't know, how should I go through that, Chair? Should I like go through each one?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kambagooch. It's a good question. So primarily, usually the way, at least historically, we found success here is when we go section by section here. I know we've been before just now having more generalized conversations and comments, and then also a bit about strategy and approach here. Director Fitchard, you gave us an overview here. Was the plan after this to then offer the amendments here, the revisions and additions, and go one by one, or what was your approach here, or suggested approach?
Yeah, I was thinking that we would talk about the changes. Hold on one second. Yeah, I mean, I think we can talk about the changes. It's the most important changes, I think, that we included. I think it should be 8 total changes. Okay. Yeah, I guess we can just go through them if you want. I didn't really have it thought out on how we were going to do it. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I just want to be able to answer Mr. Kambagooch's question, important question here. So look, this is how we've done it before. We go section by section. In fact, usually it's Mr. Pinkley, or before that, of course, the gentleman who was serving as our temporary legal advisor in that space. I would prefer to do it that way. I don't want us discussing things that we all are in agreement about, but rather discussing new ideas or approaches for each section. Mr. Pinkley, are you prepared to walk us through those sections here, and or Executive Director Fitchard, if you would prefer to do that, that's fine as well. But my understanding from the Executive Committee meeting is that you intended to hope to get a vote here from the board here so that you'd be able to move forward. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, Mr. Pinkley, yeah, go right ahead.
So let's see here.
Mr. Pink. Can I ask a point of order before we do that?
Yes.
The MOU isn't noted for a vote on the agenda. And the MOU has not gone through the Rules Committee.
Very good point.
And I think with the level of detail, that it might be of advantage for it to go through the Rules Committee before it comes back to the board. And then it can be kind of an analysis of each section or options on the sections to go through, and that might speed the process.
Yes.
Also, we have, in a sense, a little bit of time here because there's no meeting set up for the task force that would have to be recalled.
Yes.
In order to negotiate. So I think that it would be worth the time for this to go back to the Rules Committee and let everyone who's on the committee or otherwise would like to engage at that kind of level, that it's just focused on that, to come together and then to bring it back to the board after we've had a meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. No, I take your point. You're absolutely right. We do have parameters in place for that very reason. I see members of the board raising your hand. If you are raising them to echo and to agree, absolutely no need to, because we have already agreed to this and we will follow the protocol that we've all agreed upon, but I will call on those hands that continue to be raised here. Dr. Hildreth.
Thank you. I have a process recommendation. It is twofold. I would suggest that the board vote again to determine who the board wishes to be the negotiator on this amended document. And my reason for doing so is that that negotiator should probably be asked to attend the Rules Committee meeting that go through these, so that that negotiator will have firsthand understanding of what the board's delegated intent is as manifested by the deliberations in the Rules Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. Any additional comments, questions, suggestions here? Dr. Hildreth, can you just, I need you to clarify here. I want to make sure that I'm clear here. Could you just offer that to us again? I was taking a bit of notes here as well. But what is your suggestion here on the process?
My suggestion is that the last time in going into the MOU, the actual negotiation team that was created was the counter offer that the mayor made to this board's motion to have a negotiating party of 3 and 3. We all probably remember that, when the mayor countered with one from the police department, one from the COB, the law director, and Mr. Bunton as a representative from the mayor's office. So those were the 4, and I represented the board. Our board nominated and voted on me to be the representative. This is 6 months later. There are different issues. I do think it's important for the board to indicate who their preference is for a negotiator, so that it is understood to both internal and external constituencies that when that person arrives at the negotiating table, they're arriving with the full faith, confidence, and authority to negotiate on behalf of the board. So following that action of confirming a negotiator, I then further suggest that that negotiator be present in the Rules Committee meetings that go through these provisions item by item, so that that negotiator has the full benefit of understanding what the intent was behind the recommendations that go into the negotiation table.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. No, absolutely, Dr. Hildreth. Thank you. So is there, on this point here, and it's an important one here, Dr. Hildreth has served as our representative in that capacity. I can understand the purpose behind wanting to either affirm that or to identify who will be. our representative in that space. Is there a member of the board with thoughts or a motion to that regard? Ms. Ross?
I make a motion that Dr. Hildreth continues as our community liaison person.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Anyone second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Any focused discussion on this particular motion? Not. All those in favor will take a roll vote, call vote here. Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
Aye.
Mr. Goddard?
Aye.
Dr. Hildreth?
Aye.
Mr. Holloway?
Aye.
Mr. Hughes?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez? Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Ross? Ms. Ross?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Witzel?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And Dr. Hildreth, we didn't give you space and time here to accept that nomination, but you voted in the affirmative. So thank you for accepting this space of service and continuing to that regard too.
Thank you. I do accept. And so to the second half of my recommendation, I will participate as at least an auditing member on the Rules Committee that takes up the proposed recommendations, and just ask that I be provided notice of the meeting so that I can govern my schedule accordingly.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Hildreth. Director Fitchard, on the point of the MOU, so and I understand too, actually, let me first pause and just acknowledge Mr. Sweeney and thank him for raising for our awareness and to our memory as well, the proper protocol in place so that the Rules Committee, well, they have two big things on the agenda here, or rather bylaws, rather, TBI and that of MOU. Mr. Sweeney, is that your understanding as well?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And we'll be prepared in July for such a conversation on both. Next, we will move, Dr. Fitchard, unless you have anything else specific to the MOU discussion. Anything on your end before we move forward?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to the hashtag 8Can'tWait policy advisory report. We have Dr. Villier who will lead us through this conversation. And I just want to note here, it's just a matter of being very clear about our process. I know we received an email from Mr. Pinkley to ensure that we, or rather Dr. Villier, and also receive guidance about how to move forward. But I think first and foremost, we need to approach this discussion as we do, as we would any policy proposal, to determine whether we're in a position the board wants to consider approving the proposal for release. And then with that, if necessary, then we will move forward with the discussion by way of a motion of suspension of the rules with the vote process. But we'll walk through that if and when it's necessary. With that, Dr. Villier, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. I have a quick PowerPoint that we're going to share. Okay, so this should be shared with the board. This report is focused on 8 policy proposals that have been put out by Campaign Zero, which is a national reform organization that aims to reform use of force policies and reduce deadly force across the United States. These 8 proposals are to ban chokeholds and strangleholds, require de-escalation from officers prior to using physical force, requiring giving a warning before shooting, requiring officers to exhaust all alternatives before shooting, requiring a duty to intervene in cases of excessive use of force from bystander officers, banning shooting at moving vehicles, requiring that use of force continuum is taught to officers and used,
and then requiring comprehensive reporting of uses of force. These 8 policies are widely accepted across the United States and already instituted in many police departments. We've also seen movements across the country to make sure that all 8 of these proposals are being adopted, and many cities have adopted them, including Nashville, which recently made several changes to their use of force policy. But I also want to be clear that there are critiques of these 8, not from the fact that they're important policies, but that there are more policies and more changes that need to happen in order to create lasting changes in uses of force. So as part of the national campaign, the largest 100 cities policies were evaluated, and the organization put out infographics that can inform community members around what policies were not implemented in jurisdictions. The infographic for Nashville indicated that 5 policies had not been met by MMPD. However, recent changes, including a change in 2019 requiring reporting of firearm displays, led us to conclude that the requiring comprehensive reporting use of force had been met. And then on June 11th, the police department issued a roll call training that also completed the duty to intervene policy. And so I'm going to briefly go through each of these and focus specifically on the ones where we determined that there was an area for improvement, and talk about why we are proposing policy recommendations in order to strengthen the policy. And the reason why we're focusing so much on the language throughout these is that we know that restrictive language for uses of force can actually reduce both deadly and non-deadly uses of force. The first recommendation that we are giving is in response to the first recommendation of banning chokeholds and strangleholds. On the roll call training put out by MMPD, instituted a ban on chokeholds. Tennessee law has banned the use of chokeholds by law enforcement since 1994, but that was not written into policy. So what was added to policy was said that a member of MMPD shall not use a chokehold or similar neck restraint technique on any suspect, arrestee, defendant, or other person. Within this policy, neck restraints or chokeholds and neck restraints are defined in the policy as any pressure or constriction to the neck, throat, or windpipe that may inhibit breathing. Chokeholds are clearly within that. Chokeholds are intended to restrict breathing. Strangleholds, on the other hand, are not meant to restrict breathing and are meant to restrict blood flow to the brain and cause a person to pass out due to restricting blood flow. That restriction is likely, or if applied incorrectly, to cause to inhibit breathing. And so by the policy, as it's written, are banned and so would be prohibited. However, we believe that it's important that this be explicit, and that we would recommend that the police department ban chokeholds and strangleholds and include a definition of neck restraints that includes explicitly naming chokeholds, carotid restraints, lateral vascular restraints, and holds of the knee or other object on the neck while an individual is prone. This language comes from New Orleans use of force policy, which was revised following a consent decree from the Department of Justice. And Tennessee law explicitly bans chokeholds, but also explicitly excludes the lateral vascular restraints from that policy. And so we feel that it's important for policy that is informing officers to be explicit about what is within and what is not in policy.
This is Adele. Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
Is there anything in there about don't sit on them when they're prone also, please?
Yes, so there is, there's policy on positional asphyxia.
Okay.
And so officers are not to put people in positions that would lead to positional asphyxia. And having somebody handcuffed and prone on the ground would be one of those positions, especially if any pressure is put on the neck or back. And that would be a inappropriate hold for a person to be put in.
Okay. Yeah, I think, yeah, that needs to be explicit because I've autopsied, several people who have died of that mechanism as well as the carotid hold. So thanks. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, and I think that's an excellent point, that making things explicit is helpful for officers to know what is within and what is not within policy. The second recommendation that we gave, where we did not say that the policy met the the best practice standard, is on requiring de-escalation. And de-escalation, to be clear, is throughout the MMPD manual and MMPD training. It is a foundational principle of use of force. And in every conversation that we've had with the department around use of force, de-escalation is emphasized. And I want to be clear that that is an emphasis. And the department manual says that when the use of force is needed, if feasible, authorized employees will identify themselves and determine which options in the force continuum will best de-escalate the situation in the most safe, reasonable, and prudent manner. So from this definition, it's pretty clear that de-escalation is expected of officers, and officers are using de-escalation tactics. In model policies that we reviewed from around the country, what we saw is that the newest policies and policies that are more explicit often will give an explicit requirement that officers are de-escalating. They specifically state that the physical use of force is a last resort. And so we felt that through our review of national standards that we would recommend that de-escalation tactics be required before officer uses force, whether non-deadly or deadly, and that failing to use reasonable de-escalation techniques when circumstances permit should make an officer subject to disciplinary action. And that policy should state that physical force should be a last resort, and that the manual should explicitly define common de-escalation tactics that are available to officers. The last point in that policy recommendation is common in newer use of force policies around the country and has been part of consent decree standards that the Department of Justice has required of departments. The third point from the 8 Can't Wait campaign is requiring warnings before shooting. MMPD policies state that where feasible, the employee has, in order to use deadly force, the employee has given himself, herself as a police employee and given a warning such as stop police, I'll shoot, that deadly force is about to be used unless flight ceases. So we do not have a policy recommendation for this because we feel it meets the standard. Number 4, exhausting all alternatives before shooting. MMPD policy says that if all other means of apprehension available to the employee under the attendant circumstances have been exhausted. So prior to using deadly force, an employee or an officer has to exhaust all other alternatives. And so we would not give a recommendation on this as well. Duty to intervene, which is the 5th recommendation. This was added to the MMPD policy manual on June 11th. There are several other aspects of the policy that would suggest that there is a duty to intervene, including a requirement to report all misconduct to a supervisor. But the addition that was made to the policy manual states that all members must recognize and act upon the duty to intervene in order to prevent or stop any member from conducting any act that violates law or policy, including but not limited to excessive or unlawful force, unlawful behavior, abuses of authority, or major violations of our department policy or procedures. And then those interventions should be reported to a supervisor, and if necessary, medical attention would be gotten to the person who was injured. Failure to intervene or report may be subject to disciplinary action up to the severity of the violation. So we felt that this covers the duty to intervene and writes into policy an important guide to remind officers that the most important part of uses of force is to use as little force as possible and to protect the constitutional rights of all people that they come in contact with. The sixth recommendation is banning shooting at moving vehicles. MNPD policy states that employees shall not discharge their firearm at or from a moving vehicle unless absolutely necessary to protect the life of the employee or others. The police department has said that this meets the standard. However, the 8 Can't Wait campaign, as well as the International Association of Chiefs of Police and Police Executive Research Foundation Forum, I always miss the F, PERF, they actually include a stronger definition in banning shooting at moving vehicles. And specifically, our recommendation would be that the COB recommends that the MNPD amend the policy prohibiting shooting of firearms at moving vehicles to specify that the only circumstance where shooting at vehicles is allowed is when the occupant of the vehicle is using deadly force other than the vehicle itself. So the important change in this policy would be that the vehicle itself would not be the deadly force being used. This is actually a common policy across a variety of jurisdictions, including NYPD, Denver Police Department, Philadelphia, and quite a few others. So we, based on this information, on the review that is in the report, we felt that to align with best practices, this should be added to the policy. Number 7 is requiring use of force continuum. MNPD does train officers on a force continuum model, and so we would not make a recommendation on number 7. Number 8 is requiring comprehensive reporting. At the time when the 8 Can't Wait campaign analysis was done, and also in the MNPD manual, firearm displays were not included as a reportable use of force. However, as of January 2019, firearm displays are now required to be reported, and because those are a use of force. Pointing a gun at somebody to de-escalate a situation is force, and that is now reportable as of January 2019. All other force above soft empty hand control is required to be reported by the employee on a use of force report. So those are the 3 recommendations that we have made. I'm happy to answer any questions about the reasoning behind those and or anything else that the board has.
Thank you, Dr. Valier. Any questions from the board? Thank you. Is there a motion or interest rather in moving forward and adopting this policy? And if so, if you could express that by making a motion to suspend the rules under Robert's Rules of Order that will permit us to take a vote today.
Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Peter, I'm sorry, Dr. Valier, can you speak to the organizers of Campaign Zero walking this back?
I can speak in a couple ways on the critiques. The organizers of this are have led several projects on uses of force and have several websites: the Use of Force Project, Campaign Zero, and now 8 Can't Wait. And they put out a statement where they discuss the critiques of the 8 Can't Wait campaign. And there was two main critiques. One was a methodological critique of their analysis that they did of the impact that these would have on uses of force. Primarily, there were two major methodological critiques about how the analysis was done. And I think intuitively it makes sense, because what we end up seeing is that even in cities where all 8 of these policies are in place, we still see uses of force and uses of deadly force that are justified. And so there was a major critique that, this is the correlation between these policies and the amount of force and the amount of lethal force used by officers is not causal. We don't have evidence that you institute these policies and then you're going to see a major percentage reduction. We don't have that kind of evidence. The evidence that we do have suggests that there's a correlation between these, and that when cities have these policies in place, the more policies of this type they have in place, it's correlated with fewer shootings or lethal shootings by police officers. So that was one critique, and I think it's important that they really acknowledge their limitations of their analysis and did additional work to make sure that they could be transparent, put out the information about these. And then there was a second critique about strategy, and the strategic critique and we discussed both of these in the report, as well as we put the entire statement from the team that developed the 8 Can't Wait campaign in the report. The strategic critique was that these 8 principles might take away from other efforts to change the institution of policing that are being discussed right now around the country, that organizers are working on. And they were clear that they did not want these policies, while they're good policies that should be instituted, these should not supplement additional efforts to reform police, to change the institution of policing, and to create alternatives to policing. And I think when we were discussing how we should research these and provide recommendations, we have had similar conversations around how do we make sure that, yes, these are good policies that should be in the MNPD policy manual, as well as make sure that this is not the end of any analysis of use of force that we're doing. And we have ongoing plans to continue doing use of force research. We are working with the mayor's office, and we will be helping in any way we can, as well as doing independent work, auditing and reviewing policy that's more systematic, that's more in depth, as well as part of that process, giving real voice to community members to try to understand what community demands and community needs are, and how we can create alternatives to what exists now, so that going forward we'll have a more democratic process and a more equitable process around use of force.
Thank you, Dr. Valier. Mr. Campbell-Gooch, any additional questions, comments here?
Yeah, real fast. So just so I know, just so I understand, and I think they were framing it correct. Like this is 72% decrease in police killings. So my question, Dr. Valir, is how do we end all police violence?
So I think the 72% is where there was quite a bit of the methodological debate. And so their analysis of data from 2016 indicated that that on average, a department that has all 8 policies would have 72% fewer fatal police shootings than a department with 0 of those policies. There's very few departments that have 0. And so some of the critique was about extrapolation. So the way to go to 0 is, I would love if there was if someone could inform me of that. But what we can say from this information is that chances are that the more restrictive policies in place, and there's additional research outside of the 8 Can't Wait analysis that does show that restrictive use of force policies is correlated with fewer lethal and non-deadly uses of force. So this is a start. Having the conversation around what uses of force are justified and whether we need to revise what we consider justified or what is not justified, I think is part of that conversation to reducing the number of police shootings, the number of deaths at the hands of police. And that's an ongoing process. These policies will not get us to 0. And they're not intended that way. These are very mainstream policy proposals that have been endorsed by leading police organizations, including PERF, IACP, and other groups.
Mrs. Holloway, can I speak on that?
Just one moment, Mr. Holloway. Absolutely. Give me one moment. I just want to make sure I'm clear. Yep, Mr. Holloway, and then we'll go to Mr. Sweeney. Feel free.
Okay. Better training would help eliminate some of that. But one of the main things you can do is by prosecuting, setting an example. When it goes around seeing that you make a mistake like that, and you prosecute and you get time, the word gonna get around. It'll be a whole lot less shooting.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway. Mr. Sweeney.
Yes. I think that it's important for us to consider this policy recommendation tonight in its full form, but just from the Rules Committee perspective, I just think that it's important to make clear the steps that we're skipping here as we go through and if we suspend the rules. So normally tonight, what we would have is just consideration of a start of hearing a idea for research, and then we would say whether or not we thought the matter should be researched and analyzed, and then assuming that we approved it, we would send it back. And then at a next board meeting, there would be the presentation that we have here tonight. And then there would be a public hearing after that. And then following that, there would be another meeting where the only thing that would be considered would be this policy proposal. So we are skipping multiple steps in this process, what I believe for very good reason, but I just wanted to kind of highlight the fact of the steps that we'll be skipping, assuming that we go forward and approve this recommendation tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Thank you very much. Any additional comments here, or is there a motion to suspend the rules for this particular policy advisory report? Yes, Dr. Blair, is your hand raised?
Yeah, I wanted to, prior to any votes on this, I did also want to point out that if the document is approved in whole, through additional reading of the report, we found 4 typographical errors that I wanted to just be transparent with the board that there were 4 very minor typos that were fixed. So I'm happy to go through those if you want, but I just wanted to talk about that.
Does it change the substance, the content at all of the policy?
It does not, but I want to be clear of what would be approved, what would be sent out.
I appreciate that. Unless any board requests a specific thing, Ms. Ross?
Still feel that this should go through community in the process that has been set up, but I'm agreeable with what the board will vote on.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. If right now we don't have a motion to suspend the rules to move forward, as Mr. Sweeney has kind of detailed what's in front of us. If there is no such motion, then we'll simply move forward with the next item on the agenda. But I want to give space and time here should there be one as well. So I'll just pause like I always do to see if I see a hand raised or someone unmuted. Okay. So I don't see or hear anyone. Well, Mr. Kambagooch, yes?
Yeah, I also wanted to, first of all, say I read the report, and I want to say thank you, Dr. Valera. I think you do a good job of mentioning the critiques that are happening at the same time issuing a recommendation. My concern about not passing this through this body at this point in time is that by not passing it through, we allow the traditional police force here to co-opt the message, which has already been done across the country. So I kind of feel that if we're going to go with it, then now is the time, because this is a national narrative, and our community members have already engaged in this narrative. I also want to say,
what community members?
In my circles, this is a conversation that I'm constantly having around Ed Can't Wait. But I also wanted to say, I would like to also think about what it would look like to literally study or come up with a report that mirror this, but is on eliminating all police. So I wanted to lay those 2 things.
So thank you, Mr. Kambagooch. So in just 2 points here, so to be clear, and we're going to continue to move forward with this agenda and discussion connected to it. Let's be clear here, it's okay if we're all not in agreement here. We don't have a motion on the floor either, so we can simply move forward, and that means that the policy advisory report would simply go through the normal or the prescribed, protocols here. And so that's one point, Mr. Kambagooch. Also, if you have an additional report that you like to offer up for review and discussion for the staff to take on, I believe we have a process in place for that too. So welcome that as well. But I'm going to open up one more time here. If there's a motion to that effect, if not, we are going to move forward.
This is Drew. I will move that we suspend the rules to consider adoption of this report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Goddard. Is there anyone that seconds that motion?
I'll second. This is Andres.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Is there any focused discussion here on the motion on the floor here, which is to suspend the rules for us to then vote on the approval of the 8 Can't Wait policy advisory report? Any focused discussion on this topic here? Okay. Not, Ms. Ross, please. Ms. Ross, you're on mute right now, but I do see your hand raised.
I'm sorry. My understanding is from Mr. Goose Circle that he's hearing from. I'm concerned about the whole Nashville community, but I'll go along with the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Any additional focused discussion here? If not, we will take a roll call vote here. Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
Aye.
Mr. Goddard?
Aye.
Dr. Hildreth?
Aye.
Mr. Holloway?
Aye.
Mr. Hughes?
My vote once again is aye, but with the added caveat that this is an opening to the discussion around the ways in which we're going to be addressing this particular issue. It is not the be-all recommendation. Aye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hughes. Thank you very much, Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Martinez. Could you vote one more time? Just one more time, Mr. Martinez.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Witzel?
Aye.
Thank you, and I vote aye as well. Thank you very much. The motion carries. We've agreed now to suspend the rules to then take up for a vote the #8 can't wait policy advisory report. Is there a motion on the floor for the approval of said report?
So moved. This is Andres.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Anyone second?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney, thank you very much. Any focused discussion on the policy advisory report? Thank you. With that, we'll take a roll call vote. I just want to scroll through one more time, make sure I'm not missing anyone. Okay. Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
Aye.
Mr. Goddard?
Aye.
Dr. Hildreth?
Aye.
Mr. Holloway?
Aye.
Mr. Hughes?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Ross?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Witzel?
Aye.
Thank you very much. I vote aye as well. The policy advisory report is approved unanimously. Thank you very much, Dr. Valier. We're now moved to our public comment. Director Fitchard, I believe, Executive Director Fitchard will move us through this particular part of the agenda. I understand that we have a lot of community participation, which is always exciting. Just a reminder to the board here, we will remain, including your chair, I will remain on mute as well. Per our bylaws and our rules here, we will listen with offering no comment either before or after any of the public comment that we've received. And then we will move directly into new business and announcements. With that, Director Fitchard, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. I have 2 emails I'm going to read, and then we'll move into listening to 4 call-in voice messages. So the first one, it says, hello, before submitting my comment, and it says I'm a resident of Donaldson. Before submitting my comment to the COB, I would like to say thank you so much for your work in our city. I'm so grateful for your collective sacrifice and service to our community. Thank you so much. My comment for the virtual meeting on the 24th has to do with the search for the new chief of police for MMPD. Legitimacy and support. If the process of finding a new chief is to be seen as legitimate in the eyes of the community, I believe it is critical that the COB be involved heavily in the process from the very beginning. In my view, the COB is meant to function as the voice of the people in matters of police accountability and transparency. I strongly support the involvement of the COB in the process and ask that the board be given authorization to make decisions in addition to serving in an advisory role. It would be ideal, in my view, if the COB was given final approval of any candidate, or even if the COB was directed to conduct the search independently. Additionally, any involvement of Chief Anderson in the search process would seem to me to undermine the legitimacy of the search process. As various news outlets have documented over the past few years, Chief Anderson has made it clear that he does not value public input or accountability over his department. His behavior surrounding the Driving While Black report, alongside his ongoing unwillingness to involve the COB in investigations of officer-involved incidents, makes me skeptical of his decision-making in terms of selecting a successor that would be genuinely interested in reforming the department. Public value. With the increased attention on policing tactics, funding, and outcomes in the recent weeks, it is critical that the outcome of the search process yields leadership that is a champion of transparency and is dedicated to building a new culture of policing within the department. Recent report by WPLN in their Deadly Force series has shown that one factor leading to the murder of Daniel Hambrick was an encouragement to use more force in confrontations with the public. This culture and norm, combined with the historical foundation of over-policing of our Black and other non-white communities, has continued to perpetuate structural racism in Nashville. Our new chief must be informed of these issues and willing to take structural and systemic action to move our city ahead. Operational capacity. If search for the new chief is to be done with intention, the COB and the community at large must have the resources it needs to be fully involved in the process. As I am not a professional, I would look for the COB to make recommendations on its ideal process and what resources it would need to conduct this process at full capacity. To summarize, I'm asking for the COB to be fully involved in the search process by being given the full resources it needs to vet candidates and the authority to make decisions, including final approval of any candidate. Number 2, Chief Anderson must not be involved in the process at all. Number 3, the new chief must be someone committed to transparency and accountability to the public and be willing to make systemic changes in the department. Thank you. The next one says, COB should pick the new chief of police. I think the COB should be given decision-making authority, including final approval of any candidate in the search for a new chief of police. I assume this will fall upon deaf ears, but I hope I'm wrong. And I will move into the voice messages. Give me 1 second.
And I'm calling to praise the Metro Nashville PD. I think they've been doing an amazing job in the city, and they've been doing an amazing job protecting the citizens. I think that they should get raises, and I'm glad that they were not defunded, but I think they're doing such an amazing job that their salary should be raised in the future. I am not a fan of certain small groups lasting them that live in the city. That is not right. They run into danger when the rest of us have to run away from it. So I have nothing but praise for Metro Nashville PD, and I appreciate them so much. God bless them.
I'll play the next one.
My first comment is the reluctance of the police department to work with the Community Oversight Board. One, the Community Oversight Board, you're an outsider. You need a liaison and somebody that's not connected to the police department to be able to sit down and talk with the police department and get you the right equipment so that you can respond to things where there are officer-involved incidents, and that you can have access to all the documentation that you need. You also need to work with the Fraternal Order of Police. The police is definitely embedded with the Fraternal Order of Police, so you have to at least sit down and try to listen to them and establish rapport with them as well. And then my last comment experts and people who have expertise in use of force and police policy. Thank you very much for listening. Again, my name is Kenneth Hardy. My number is 719-761-5388.
Hey, this is Rosie Quinn. I am the Nashville local and just check in about what the Oversight Board is going to do for the use of force review. As a pastor and as a person that loves Nashville, I really believe that we can turn the tide here and really question our police's use of force to people who are the most vulnerable, especially Black and brown folks. I am going to be checking in, and I'm going to be holding you all accountable as a person of faith and a Christian who believes that justice is always on the right side of history. Thank you for reviewing your use of force policy. I'm Alyssa, a Nashville resident. It is clear that police and policing do not actually ensure or promote public safety. They represent violence, state-sanctioned violence, for our country's Black, brown, and indigenous communities for centuries. It should not sound like news to you that the people are calling for their abolishment. It is a courageous thing to be on this board and push for accountability, but I'm here to tell you, in solidarity with Black people, you need to go harder. I want to hear you all advocating for a community control process to choose the next police chief. I want to hear you demanding consistent increases to the MNPD budget. Nashville is not exempt from the militarization of the police that we are seeing cause chaos in Minneapolis, New York City, throughout California, and other places across the nation. We need you to participate, educate yourselves, and use your voices to build a Nashville that no longer relies on police. With every recommendation to address the current need of reducing harm caused by MNPD and holding them accountable to their violence, even though you have not been able to be successful in that yet. There needs to be a concurrent effort that invests in community resources and divest from police. I want to know how each of you are preparing yourselves to fight for a Nashville without police. I want to know what steps you are taking to educate yourself and your network. Thank you.
Director Fisher, do you have any additional?
No, that's the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move to new business and announcements. Any new business and announcements? Please feel free.
Yes, I have one announcement.
Director Fisher, hold on a second. Let's go to the board.
Okay, sorry.
Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
I have an announcement. We're hosting a North Nashville block party at the Magruder Center this Saturday from 10 to 2. And the whole purpose of the block party is to do a couple of things. One, celebrate Black joy, because we've been through a lot. And two, get folks in the door to start talking about tornado relief and getting the community connected to resources. So once again, we're having a block party at the Magruder Center from 10 to 2 this Saturday.
With masks on and social distancing, right, mister?
All of that. Masks being handed out as you come.
That's great. Fantastic. Thank you. Any additional new business or announcements?
Okay. Oh, I have an announcement. I just want to make a quick announcement.
Please.
On June 17th of 2020, that was our 1-year anniversary for the first hired COB staff members. And I just want to thank them and the entire staff for their dedication to this very important work for the community of Nashville. There have been many frustrations, changes in direction, milestones to cross. but they have stood together in solidarity to uphold the mission of the COB, as well as support me as I transitioned into this new role as the executive director. I'm thankful and grateful for the staff's extraordinary work, their courage, their flexibility, and most of all, their commitment. And also, it goes without saying that we love the Nashville community and we thank them for their continued support.
Thank you, Director Fisher. Thank you for reminding us of that important milestone as well, and to you and the entire staff as well. Any additional new business or announcements here?
Yes. If the COB is allowed to be a part of that search committee, I've served under 5 different chief of police. I traveled the majority of the states of the United States and been welcomed by the chief of police in different cities in the state. And so if it comes down to it, I'd like to be a candidate to help select new chief.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway. We should absolutely, as a board, have that conversation. Let's stay in that same vein here. I would like to get the board's ideas and just get your impressions here, because even before public comment, there was a lot of conversation around wanting to ensure we re-emphasize that point. I'm sure many of you saw the statement, the board saw the statement that we made to make it very clear that we have the expectation that the COB will be central and have a decision-making authority in this process. It's clear that the community feels similarly. I am comfortable with and prepared to use the letter that we will send to the mayor accepting the invitation to be a part of the committee to reiterate that very point. If there's anyone that feels otherwise and doesn't think we should include that in the letter, please let me know. But otherwise, I will plan to do just that in that same platform. Okay. Sounds great, and we'll move forward. Last but not least here, I just want to offer a reminder. We are in the month of June, if you can believe it, at the end of June, coming up on July. If the governor does not extend the current order, then we will be working to offer an in-person meeting with as safe as possible parameters, right? And we will be thoughtful, and I'll work very closely with the executive director and her staff on that, and we'll share information. But along with that comes just a reminder, I think is appropriate to say that we're scheduled to hold our elections in August. The nominating committee has already met. They've made their recommendations. And while the entire board is not privy to that, I myself am not privy to their recommendations. That was several months ago. And so Mr. Pinkley will reach out to the committee. We have no need to right now go into the weeds of this. We'll talk more about that in the month of July. But I want to offer to all of the board that whether or not you have been selected by the nominating committee or not, if you have the interest in serving on the executive committee, that you should start to really right now start to do that, personal thinking and be prepared to express that to Mr. Pinkley before the August board meeting. And so we'll talk more about that, but I felt it appropriate to just mention that before we are just less than a month away from making that vote as well. And Mr. Pinkley will guide us, I'm sure, fearlessly through that process as well. Any additional comments or new business or announcements for anyone to share? Okay. If not, then I will accept a motion to adjourn. Or would you all like to?
So moved.
Okay. I just thought y'all wanted to have dinner together. Anyone second?
Second.
Thank you. Is that Dr. Hildreth, I believe? Thank you. So the motion was made by Ms. Ross, seconded by Dr. Hildreth. Any focused discussion here? I'm going to use a point of privilege here to just say this month alone has been heavy. Please continue to stay with yourself, keep yourself, but also realize that this work is important. And that's a privilege on your chair that I should have said before now. I'm privileged to work with you all in this work. I really am. With that, we'll take a motion. We'll take a roll call vote here to adjourn. Mr. Campbell Gooch.
Just to confess, I've been eating dinner.
That's okay. I wish I was like you. The chair can't do that. So whoever's running for chair, remember that. Mr. Goddard.
Aye.
Dr. Hildreth.
Aye.
Mr. Holloway.
Aye.
Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
I guess.
Thank you. I'll take that as an aye, Dr. Lewis. Mr. Martinez.
Please do.
Aye.
Ms. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Sweeney.
Sorry, aye.
No problem. And Mr. Witzel.
Aye.
Thank you, and I vote aye as well. The motion is adjourned at 7:02. Just a reminder, we will convene on July the 22nd. That will be the next community oversight board meeting. The executive committee will meet the week preceding, so the week of July 13th. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.